These drawings, painting and sketchy representations are not the work of children who happen to find crayons. Rather, they tell a story. The story of a sports tournament in a city where art can probably play the most formative role it can. As I was browsing the internet and looking at old posters, this one caught my eye for two reasons. On the one hand, it doesn't look like something that is intentional. At first glance you see two grey strokes, a black stroke and a red font that looks very scribbly. What irritated me the most, however, was the text that is written on this poster. Roland Garros. For me, as a sports fan and recently also a great tennis lover, the name was of course clearly recognizable as the name of the French Open. The French Open is one of the most important tennis tournaments of the year. Tournament with a rich tradition that originated in 1891 and pays out a total of 49 million euros in prize money every year. This tournament has something like that as a poster? Above all, it was set for a price of just under 100 euros. So my curiosity was aroused. How can such a prestigious tournament in what is known as a fine sport have such a poster? What is the story behind it? And that story actually begins in 1980 with this poster. In 1980, the French Tennis Federation and the French Open Tournament Committee came up with the idea of partnering with the Galerie Lelong & Co. This was to be one of the longest lasting and certainly one of the most exciting partnerships between art, design and sport. The Lelong Co Gallery is one of the best known galleries for contemporary art and represents well-known artists such as David Hockney, Kate Shepard, or the estate of the century-old artist Juan Miró. But what is so special about this partnership? The artists were given a completely free hand. The only condition, it must at least remotely be associated with tennis. And so we find ourselves back at the first poster from 1980. This poster was created by the Italian artist Valerio Adami. On the one hand, it's reminiscent of the pop art movement of the years before. On the other hand, it is a homage to Cloisonnism, a style of post-impressionism that works with strong and flat shapes and strong, dark dividing lines. It shows a tennis serve with implied movement, in a style that honestly also works excellently today as, I'll call it, a more conservative poster in the sense of classical graphic design. There are now over 40 posters, too many to analyze and look at them all in this little video, but I would like to talk about some of the posters that fascinated me and create a small overview of the fascinating works created by contemporary artists. Various categories can be observed. There are posters that deal very concretely with the game of tennis, such as this geometric looking poster by Jean-Michel Follon, who opens a window onto a tennis court, showing us the structural beauty of such a court. Follon was indeed an architectural draughtsman, so his approach is not so surprising. Other artists have also used their own professional training to depict part of the game, such as the Belgian painter Pierre Alechinsky, who originally learned calligraphy. This gave rise to his love of ink, which he used in his works, including this poster with many tennis balls. But it was not only the tennis equipment that was to be the focus. The players or their bodies were also quickly an emerging theme. This began as early as 1981 with the brilliant idea of Eduardo Arroyo to depict last year's winner Björn Borg, who was directly recognizable from behind due to his very striking hairstyle. For me, this poster totally reflects the vibe I get from tennis shots of the 1980s. Long hair, headbands, and a certain lightness. But not only the hair played a role in the posters, but also the bodies of the stars. I find this poster by Vladimir Veličković quite fascinating, who creates a composition so full of energy and movement, as if a tennis player were a gladiator in an ancient arena. This poster by Ernest Pignon Ernest, yes, that's his real name, also shows the special movement of tennis. However, this hand is also reaching for the stars, for the immortality of victory, which only makes it more expressive and unique. In addition to these quite unambitious images, there are also some that we, as the person looking at them, might not directly understand. Some of these posters were inspired by a special feature of the French Open. They have a very special surface, red sand. This makes the ball slower, it is more difficult to get to the net, and matches last longer. Such a USP is of course an opportunity to be used, as here with the poster by Jean-Michel Maurice or the poster by Arnulf Reiner in 2008, both of which use a typical style to depict this special element. Besides these posters that can be interpreted, there are also some whose meaning or idea has escaped me. But with modern art, maybe that's not such a bad thing. I still found the posters that were satirical or caricatural particularly exciting. This poster from '99 makes me smile again right now. On the one hand, Antonio Segui has a funny style of painting his figures, and on the other side he captures a classic but at the same time so funny scene in tennis. When you look at the figures, you get the feeling that they are about to turn around to look at the ball in the other direction. The same principle is used by Harv Di Rosa, a neo-pop artist in which one-eyed figures also look after a ball. While recent years' illustrations are gaining more views, like 2020, 21 and 23 here, my favorite is actually probably this poster from 2019. While of course the color is reminiscent of the sandy soil, I was particularly intrigued by the puzzle-like layout. In fact, artist Jose Maria Sicilia intends this poster to be something that is quite typical of tennis matches, but has never been looked at before. How could it? It is about sound. In an abstract way, he has depicted the sound of a tennis match, from cheering, the bouncing of the ball, to absolute silence. He explains this with his childhood, when he often heard tennis on the radio. I felt connected to it, after all. As a child, I used to listen to my then absolute favorite sport, football. So, kind of the same, I think. But what do I, as a designer, say to such posters? I think they're great. The beauty of these posters is that you don't have to communicate anything. They don't have any informational function, except that Roland Garros and the year have to be on them. This opens up a function for them as a canvas, and they all fulfill this purpose. Even our poster from the beginning, which, by the way, was created in 2 seconds. Not bad, I'd like to be finished that quickly. In addition, the French Open found a way to create their very own corporate identity, in a different way, which simply encompasses potentially the whole of contemporary art. In the sports context, an abstract poster is almost certainly a Roland Garros poster, and that's already a pretty big area. With some of these posters, you can see why artists wouldn't always be good designers. With some, the posters would look great, even as a conventionally designed poster. One of them is the poster I would like to end this video with. The 1984 poster puts us in the foreground, the spectators. Without them, this tournament would not be possible. The players are framed by us, but they are still in the background. So somehow it is a coexistence of both. A small note, the colors of the hat are of course those of the French flag, red, white and blue. It's so easy for design and art to pass the ball back and forth, just like in tennis. Thank you.